Hello, and welcome to On the Level. I'm Jeff Hutton. Today, Novel Baswedan, one of Indonesia's top corruption investigators. In 2017, he was the victim of an acid attack as he left his neighborhood mosque following morning prayers. The attack left him blind in one eye and with only half of the sight in the other. This week, a court will hand down a verdict of 2 junior police officers charged with conducting the attack. But Mr. Baswedan says the 2 are fall guys from more senior police who were rattled by Mr. Baswedan's investigations that went after some of the country's most powerful men. His investigation into a $180 million scam involving kickbacks and shady deals linked to the rollout of a new ID card that every Indonesian adult must carry helped jail the former Speaker of the lower house of Parliament, Setia Novanto. Mr. Baswedan said police were too slow with their investigations. They intimidated witnesses, like Mr. Baswedan's neighbors, sometimes by taking them from their homes in the middle of the night, supposedly for questioning, but leaving them alone in an interrogation room, sometimes for hours. Mr. Baswedan's back at work now, although he sometimes gets threats on his safety, most recently last year. Here's our interview with Mr. Baswedan recorded on Tuesday at his office in Jakarta. Novel Baswedan, thank you very much for joining me on the level.
Yes.
What is your current position with the KPK?
Saya sekarang sebagai penyidik senior, tentunya saya membawai beberapa penyidik untuk melakukan kegiatan investigasi dan saya mengambil peran yang bisa mengurangi untuk membaca atau dengan cara melihat.
He is a senior investigator now in KPK, and he is now trying to reduce the amount of reading. So he has a person read the document for him, and then he try to construct his idea about the reading.
We're recording this just a few days before the verdict is expected. In the trial, the 2 men suspected of attacking you with acid, Chief Brigadier Ronnie Bugis and Brigadier Rahmat Kadir Mahulete. The prosecutors have asked for a prison sentence of a year.
Yeah.
But you've recently said publicly that they should be found not guilty because you think they're patsies, they're fall guys, taking a fall for someone more senior. Who is responsible then, in your view?
Memang begini, saya diberitahu bahwa ada 2 orang yang ditetapkan sebagai tersangka oleh penyidik di sekitar bulan Desember. Saya bertanya kepada penyidik, apa yang menjadi keyakinan penyidik bahwa 2 orang itu pelakunya? Apakah ada alat bukti yang bisa menjadi dasar, menjadi keyakinan penyidik bahwa 2 orang itu yang ditetapkan tersangka adalah pelakunya? Saya tidak mendapat penjelasan. Dan kemudian saya berkesempatan bertemu dengan beberapa saksi-saksi yang adalah tetangga-tetangga saya, yang dalam interaksi sehari-hari bertemu dengan saya. Saya bertanya ke mereka, apakah yakin itu pelakunya? Tidak ada satupun yang mengatakan yakin ini pelakunya.
He had actually asked the investigator of the case, do you have the evidence to verdict those 2 guys, 2 brigadiers? They don't have it. They don't have the evidence for that Kadir and
Mahulete.
Mahulete. And then Bang Novel also asked the witnesses, his neighbors, are they sure those brigadiers are the one who attacked Bang Novel? Nobody really sure.
So because of a lack of evidence, in your view, they should not be convicted. And when we say brigadier, we should say that these are low-level police.
Saya mau teruskan lagi penjelasan saya tadi. Kenapa saya bertanya ke tetangga saya? Karena pelaku penyerangan saya dilihat dengan cukup jelas, jarak tidak terlalu jauh, dengan kondisi yang beberapa di antara mereka berinteraksi oleh setidak-tidaknya 6 orang saksi.
There are 6 persons who actually saw the real attackers that morning. very clearly. They saw them very clearly.
Dan pelaku ini tidak hanya hadir di hari pada saat saya diserang, tapi sejak 2 hari sebelum penyerangan, 1 hari sebelum penyerangan, dan di hari penyerangan pelaku eksekutor hadir untuk mengamati saya dan kemudian menyerang saya di hari yang tanggal 11 April itu.
So the attackers is not only there in the day of the attack. They was also there 2 days before the attack and one day before the attack.
Meaning that they were casing the place. They were taking surveillance of your daily habits.
Ya,
Yes.
mereka mengamati ketika saya keluar rumah dan menuju ke masjid. Aktivitas itu yang dilihat sejak 2 hari sebelum penyerangan dan 1 hari sebelum penyerangan, dan kemudian dia lakukan penyerangan di hari tanggal 11 itu.
Yeah. So at least they studied Bang Novel routine to go to the mosque every day.
How do you know that those 6?
Ya, saya tahu 6 saksi karena 1 tahun setelah kejadian, saya kembali dari Singapura. Saya mengetahui ada banyak kejanggalan dalam proses investigasinya. Oleh karena itu, saya melapor kepada Komnas HAM untuk mereka melakukan investigasi. Ketika melapor kepada Komnas HAM melakukan investigasi dan mengetahui fakta-fakta kejadian dan lain-lain yang di situ tergambar dengan jelas bahwa ada 6 orang saksi yang melihat dengan jelas wajah pelaku. Ada bukti-bukti lain yang tidak diambil dan bukti-bukti lain yang kemudian yang harusnya bisa bermanfaat pembuktian tidak digunakan.
So after I got back from Singapore, I sensed something wrong with the investigation process. So he decided to go to the National Body of Human Rights, and then they conduct their own investigation, and they found that 6 person. Also, they found misconduct in investigation process.
And this identification of the suspects, that was possible through, I think, CCTV footage and from fingerprints, isn't that? From the vial of the acid, well, that what you would later learn to be sulfuric acid. It was fairly straightforward finding the suspects then.
Memang saya ketika pertama kali diserang, saya meyakini ini pasti tertangkap. Kenapa? Karena perbuatannya menyolok, saksi-saksinya banyak, bukti-buktinya banyak, CCTV-nya banyak di sekitar tempat tinggal saya, dan ada bukti IT yang biasa digunakan untuk mendeteksi keberadaan seseorang itu bisa digunakan, dan banyak hal lain. Apalagi kepala kepolisian waktu itu menyampaikan kepada saya akan sungguh-sungguh mengungkap. Tapi ternyata justru ada abuse of process, sebagaimana kata Komnas HAM, proses itu tidak dilakukan dengan benar.
So at the beginning of his case, he still had faith that the case will be uncovered, because he believed that there were so many evidences, there were so many witnesses, so many CCTVs around his house. There's also IT evidence that he believed that the investigators had, and also a promise from the National Chief of Police, Mr. Tito Karnavian at that time, that he will resolve the case. But I finally realized that there is an abuse of process in the investigation.
And what brought you to that realization? Was it because so much time had elapsed? I think something like 7 or 8 months from the attack to when you came back from Singapore to get treatment. Is that right?
Begini, saya ketika di Singapura tanggal 12 April itu saya dirawat inap, tidak boleh keluar dari rumah sakit hingga sekitar akhir Juli atau awal Agustus. Artinya selama 4 bulan saya benar-benar ada di rumah sakit. Setelah itu saya berkomunikasi dalam proses pemeriksaan ataupun komunikasi informal dengan penyidik untuk mendukung agar bisa diungkap segera. Tapi proses itu ternyata tidak berjalan. Saya baru tahu bahwa proses itu tidak berjalan ketika saya pulang dari Singapura ke Indonesia bertemu dengan tetangga-tetangga saya yang sebagai saksi, justru mereka terintimidasi. Mereka merasa terancam dan mereka kemudian melihat bahwa prosesnya tidak sungguh-sungguh. Sehingga sejak itulah saya baru melapor kepada Komnas HAM, yang seharusnya itu tidak normal. Karena proses ketika sudah ditangani, maka prosesnya harus berjalan dengan benar.
He spent 4 months in National Hospital of Singapore.
Yeah.
Yes. And after that, he went back to Indonesia. In Singapore, the investigators met him, and he still believed that the case will be solved. And then he went back to Indonesia, and then he met his neighbors, the witnesses. Some of them, said to him, report to him that they were intimidated. They were intimidated by the investigators, and CCTV juga nggak diambil ya Pak?
CCTV nggak diambil.
Some neighbors with CCTV report to him that
Sidik jari hilang.
nobody came to collect the CCTV's
Yeah.
footage, and also the fingerprints in the
vial.
vial
Yeah.
is missing. It's just missing.
Yeah.
When you say intimidate, did the neighbors characterize the form that the intimidation came? Did they say things? Were they just menacing? How did they know that they were being encouraged not to cooperate?
Intimidasinya begini, mereka pada saat memberi keterangan itu tidak diposisikan sebagai orang yang benar-benar perlu didengar keterangannya. Contoh, ketika ada saksi yang menunjukkan foto pelaku yang bersiap atau melakukan pengamatan sebelum penyerangan, justru saksinya itu ditanya oleh penyidiknya, kenapa Anda foto orang itu? Kenapa Anda foto? Apakah memfoto orang itu izin dengan yang difoto? Apakah dibayar sesuatu sejumlah uang untuk melakukan foto orang itu oleh novel? Hal-hal itu diantaranya. Belum lagi ancaman-ancaman yang mereka terima.
One of the witness reported to Bang Novel and his colleagues that when the investigator asked the person showed a photo of a suspicious person. But then the investigator said to the witness, "Why do you take the photo? Have you asked permission to take the photo to the person? How much Novel paid you to take the photo?"
Dan ada juga beberapa saksi yang kemudian sempat diperlihatkan orang-orang, dia melihat dari balik kaca yang satu arah, yang tidak bisa dilihat balik, untuk menunjuk orang yang diduga pelaku. Dia tunjuk orang dengan cara yang benar, dengan keyakinan dia. Tapi yang terjadi adalah dia justru diancam, yang akhirnya dia mengubah keterangannya dan tidak berani menunjuk lagi.
Okay, in the police office usually they line people up, and then they ask you who did that, and then one person is firm, that one, but then the investigator said to the person, "Are you sure? Because if you're wrong, you will be."
Wow.
Yeah.
Dan
You will be in trouble. And to be clear, and I'm sorry this sounds silly, but to be clear, these people, they are police. They identify themselves, they're police.
Dia lakukan itu di kantor polisi, dan itu adalah polisi yang dia kenal.
Yes, because the investigation process is being done in the police office and by a police that the witness know.
Ya. Dan terkait dengan hal itu juga, beberapa saksi dalam waktu yang tidak ditentukan, kadang tiba-tiba di tengah malam, kadang-kala dijemput, kemudian dipulangkan besok paginya, atau dibawa, ditaruh di kantor polisi, tidak diambil keterangan, dibiarkan, dan itu tidak melalui proses pemanggilan sebagaimana seorang saksi. Itu bentuk-bentuk intimidasi lainnya.
So another form of intimidation is some witnesses were being taken by officers sometimes in the middle of the night, and they just left them in the investigation room, and then in the morning they took them back to the house, just like that.
They were left.
Without letters.
Tanpa letters, yes.
Without permission.
Yeah.
They came in the middle of the night. They told them they were needed for questioning.
Yes.
But they just stayed in the questioning room, in the interrogation room, alone.
alone, even without interrogation.
Kadang disuruh nunggu di ruangan dan di tempat-tempat tertentu yang
Yeah.
ditetapkan.
For hours.
Ya, kadang sampai seharian.
Yeah, even a whole day sometimes.
And the neighbors were telling you this.
Tetangga-tetangga saya itu adalah orang-orang saksi-saksi kunci yang dia juga mengetahui dengan banyak informasi sebelum saya diserang, yang menunjukkan bahwa pelaku penyerangan itu banyak, terorganisir dan sistematis. Dan mereka kemudian di persidangan perkara sekarang ini sama sekali tidak dipanggil untuk hadir di persidangan.
Most of them are key witnesses. They even know what happened before the attack. They even recognize the surveillance. But now they didn't get invited in the court for Kadir and Abdul.
Ya.
Can I just check? Did your neighbors identify the two suspects, Ronnie Bugis and Mahulete?
Dua tersangka ini dikatakan oleh tetangga saya bahwa dia bukan pelakunya.
Yeah, my neighbor said they are not the attackers, the real attackers.
I wonder then, as you recount the intimidation that your neighbors experienced and the long time it's taken to get to this point, the attack happened more than 3 years ago now. What does this say about the state of corruption in Indonesia, do you think?
Jadi korupsi Indonesia itu begitu parah sebenarnya. Bahkan semua sektor terjadi korupsi, semakin lama semakin buruk. Setidak-tidaknya sekarang ini sektor penegak hukum justru semakin parah dan ini semakin berbahaya. Dan saya yakin semua serangan-serangan terhadap diri saya maupun orang-orang di KPK itu terkait dengan serangan balik para pelaku korupsi.
Okay, the corruption state now in Indonesia is so bad, and it happened in all sectors of our lives, and especially the law enforcement.
Yeah.
And he believed that the attack that he experienced is the corruptors try to fight back.
Because at that time, just so that the listeners can be aware, you were investigating a very big, maybe the biggest corruption case in Indonesia at the time, the KTP ID that all Indonesians over the age of 17 have to use. And I think, if I'm right, something like $180 million was siphoned off that program in kickback and shady deals to roll out this new form of identification, which I think was a bust. You were onto something and actually being very successful. That's what they were pushing back on, you think?
Yang pertama, saya tidak mau terjebak dalam perspektif motif, karena saya meyakini latar belakang serangan tidak hanya terkait dengan EKTP.
Okay.
Walaupun saya bisa menggarisbawahi bahwa salah satunya adalah masalah EKTP. Tapi kita tidak boleh lupa bahwa pada saat itu ada beberapa kasus besar yang sedang berjalan secara bersamaan.
Okay, I don't want to be trapped in only one case, only IKTP case, because at that time there are a lot of big case that in process together in at the same time. So it's just one case that Bang Novel handled at that time. Although I believe that IKTP has relations with my case, but it's not the only one.
Ya.
I want to ask you about President Joko Widodo was elected in 2014 mainly because, if not almost entirely, because of disgust among the electorate of the widespread corruption at the time. He was elected to clean up Jakarta. You're talking about widespread corruption even to this day. And you are living proof of the corruption that still exists. Do you think President Widodo has failed to clean up corruption in Indonesia?
Saya tidak bisa mengukur gagal apa tidak gagal, tapi yang jelas keberpihakannya tidak terlihat. Dan terkait dengan beberapa hal penting, justru belakangan ini KPK semakin terpuruk dengan adanya perubahan undang-undang yang menyulitkan KPK bekerja. Ditambah lagi dengan keberpihakan politik yang lebih berpihak kepada pelaku koruptor daripada lembaga-lembaga atau orang-orang yang memberantas korupsi. Ya, dan masalah ini tidak terjadi tiba-tiba. Kita bisa melihat sejak setidak-tidaknya tahun 2014, ketika itu upaya untuk melemahkan KPK dilakukan dengan terus-menerus. Dan hingga puncaknya kemudian mereka berhasil merubah undang-undang dan melakukan banyak hal untuk melemahkan KPK. Dan kita bisa melihat itu sebagai seperti sangat sistematis lah dilakukan.
I cannot measure whether he is failed or he is not failed, but I'm not sure where he sided to. Not to mention that now recent condition of the KPK, which is it's getting harder for us to work now because of the revision of the law, of our law. The politics also prefer to side to corruptors, he said, not to the people. It's a very systematic movement by them. I mean, he said that he can sense it since 2014, where the parliament tried to change our law.
The KPK law.
Yeah, the KPK law. And now, in 2019, they succeed.
It's probably worth stating here that this law gives the KPK, it did give it extensive independence, whereby the KPK was able to launch its own investigations and conduct its own hearings independent of the police. And that law has been reversed. Much of that independence has been taken away. I believe the head of the KPK must be police, am I correct? Is that right?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And so you have
Sekarang
a,
ketua kita polisi.
a toothless watchdog.
Dan gini, saya mau jelaskan juga bahwa sebenarnya perangkat-perangkat yang memaksa atau membuat pemerintah harus melakukan langkah-langkah yang tegas itu banyak. Kita bisa melihat dari UNCIC contohnya di pasal 6 dan pasal 36 yang mengatur agar Indonesia mau membuat dan sudah diratifikasi dalam Undang-Undang Indonesia yang mewajibkan dibentuknya lembaga anti korupsi yang independen dan diwajibkan untuk melindungi aparatur yang memberantas korupsi, dan itu juga dinyatakan dalam Jakarta Principle. Dan masalahnya kita bisa melihat di masa pemerintahan Pak Jokowi sekarang ini justru banyak aparatur-aparatur setidak-tidaknya di KPK yang diteror, yang diserang, diintimidasi, dan semuanya tidak ada yang dilindungi. Dilindungi dalam perspektif perlindungan fisik maupun perlindungan hukum. Faktanya tidak ada satupun yang diungkap. Adapun yang diungkap sekarang ini justru menunjukkan dibuat untuk dalam rangka menutupi, bukan untuk mengungkap dengan benar. Dan tidak ada satupun yang diungkap. Dan ini menunjukkan bahwa itu masalah yang serius. Sedangkan dari KPK sudah sering menyampaikan itu baik langsung maupun tidak langsung, dan kita juga sering mengumumkan ke publik.
Okay. Actually, there are already so many international agreements about anti-corruption movement in a country, especially Indonesia. For example, UNCAC that has been ratified with a law in Indonesia, and then the Jakarta Principle that put protection of the anti-corruption enforcement. Okay, but the truth is, in Jokowi's reign now, we cannot see protection to law enforcers, especially anti-corruption law enforcers, especially KPK's employees. There are so many cases that happen to KPK's employees, even the previous commissioners, that are not being seriously investigated. What happened is they try to cover it up with the misconduct investigation, abuse of process.
I just want to, can I just pick up on the question about Jokowi? Because and I don't want to belabor it too much, but he did get elected in part because of a promise that he was a clean skin. He was going to bring on a mental revolution that in part would have business acting more transparently. Was he successful in that? Can he legitimately call himself a reformer?
Memang sejak awal ketika Pak Jokowi jadi presiden, saya juga yang berharap banyak beliau bisa melakukan banyak perubahan terkait dengan tadi yang dikatakan reformasi dan transparantasi dan beberapa hal lain. Tentunya terkait dengan isu masalah anti korupsi dan penegakan hukum, karena ini isu yang paling mendasar. Dan isu ini seringkali menjadi ukuran seorang orang dari luar, investor mau masuk ke Indonesia, seringkali itu menjadi ukuran. Tapi faktanya yang terjadi adalah ketika kami bekerja, justru keberpihakan itu tidak terlalu kami rasakan. Bahkan ketika kami diserang pun itu menjadi seperti kami ditinggalkan. Padahal untuk bisa memberantas korupsi yang efektif itu perlu dukungan yang kuat dari pemerintah.
So at the beginning, Bang Novel also believed that he will reform the bureaucracy, he will reform everything in Indonesia, and especially in terms of anti-corruption and law enforcement. He cannot sense that support from the government, especially from the president. He cannot sense the political will from the president to support the movement of anti-corruption. If we learn from all around the world, there are no success anti-corruption movement if there is no support from the government.
And there's no
There
support
is no.
from the government. So this may seem like
Almost, hampir.
Almost
hampir tidak
no.
pernah. Kalau no sama sekali mungkin enggak lah. Ada beberapa tapi sedikit.
understood. You're being very careful. Well, then this gets me thinking, I'm sorry if it's a bit of a disconnect, but when we talk about corruption, we talk about confidence and transparency in a system of government. That makes me think about investment. What should foreign investors know about Indonesia before they consider putting their capital here? The picture you paint, Papa, is one where corruption is rampant in all sectors with little support from the top to eradicate corruption. It sounds like an unsafe place to invest.
Ya, memang tentunya ini suatu keprihatinan. Kami juga tidak mengharapkan itu terjadi. Kita ingin ke depan ada perbaikan yang sungguh-sungguh. Oleh karena itu, kami juga berharap, saya juga berharap setidak-tidaknya setiap orang yang punya kesempatan untuk bisa memberikan saran atau masukan atau mendesak kepada pemerintah untuk memperhatikan hal ini, itu menjadi penting. Karena ke depan tentunya kita ingin Indonesia menjadi tempat yang bisa menjadi tempat yang baik lah untuk para investor dan untuk Indonesia menjadi lebih berkembang.
He is not happy saying that. I mean, saying that Indonesia is not a safe place, corruption in all sectors. But that is the important that he needs everyone know and support the anti-corruption movement. Everyone who can talk can remind the government to support the anti-corruption
Mendesak
movement.
juga.
And force the government to have political will on anti-corruption movement. Because this one is very important in investment.
I wonder if we can switch gears, and I realize that this may be upsetting to you, but I wonder if you could walk us through that morning on April 11th, 2017. And from what I understand, you were leaving your local mosque early in the morning, after morning prayer. You were splashed with something you thought maybe just was water, but a few minutes later, you realized there was a burning, and you later find out it was sulfuric acid, that it entered your eyes and scarred your skin. What happened after that? Can you give us an insight into what that was like, and and the steps that happened after that.
Ya memang kalau yang dirasakan pastinya sangat sakit ya. Dan saya tidak pernah merasakan sakit yang sebesar itu. Tetapi beberapa waktu kemudian saya masih harus berpikir bahwa berjuang memberantas korupsi bersama dengan rekan-rekan itu tidak boleh terus kemudian menjadi jatuh semangatnya karena itu. Oleh karena itu setelah itu saya berupaya untuk bangkit dengan memaafkan pelaku, dengan saya tetap harus fokus ke depan tujuan untuk memberantas korupsi agar upaya untuk menghentikan itu gagal.
He never experienced pain like that, the most excruciating pain that he had ever experienced, and of course he had trauma for that. But then after that, he thinks that he need to continue the fight. He need to continue the struggle, especially in eradicating corruption in Indonesia.
At your darkest time, you must have been worried that perhaps your eyesight would be lost. Now that you have some, is it better than you had feared? How is your recovery versus what your worst expectations?
Bahkan sejak awal ketika saya belum merasakan kondisi sekarang, saya ada sedikit harapan dengan bisa melihat walaupun terbatas. Saya ketika kondisi di awal saya masih mengira muka saya hancur karena terbakar, luka bakar, dan saya mengira kedua mata saya buta permanen. Saya tetap tidak mau menunjukkan kalah dan membiarkan pelaku penyerangan itu berhasil untuk membunuh perjuangan anti korupsi. Apalagi sekarang.
Even at the darkest time when he thought that he will lose all the sights and then his face will be so badly damaged, he still thinks that he will not lose the fight against corruption. He will keep moving. So now is much better, of course, because he still have his sights.
Can I ask, just as we wrap up, Papa, are you safe? Is your family safe? Do you get threats even now?
Sampai sekarang tidak lagi, tapi beberapa waktu atau setahun yang lalu itu masih ada. Tapi saya tidak tahu, barangkali karena saya sudah terlalu sering diancam, jadi ancaman-ancaman ringan itu tidak menjadi masalah lagi.
Recently, he hasn't got any threat for him and for his family. But 1 year ago, he still got some threats. But he said that maybe I'm get used to threat, so I'm not afraid of it anymore.
Thank you so much for joining me, Pak. And I wish you and your family good health and safety.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
And that's On the Level. Thanks for listening. Our thanks to Novel Baswedan and the staff at the Corruption Eradication Commission. Our producer is Stephen Handoko. Research by Imam Shofwan. Music by Soundstripe. If you like us, please hit subscribe and rate us. It helps. I'm Jeff Hutton. See you next time.